Charlie Chaplin and Albert Einstein. January 30th, 1931. The Los Angeles Theater is packed for the premiere of City Lights. Flashbulbs explode, reporters jostle for position, but the real shock isn't just Charlie Chaplin's latest masterpiece. It's the man standing beside him, Albert Einstein, the most famous scientist in the world, arm in arm with the king of silent comedy. Hollywood is baffled. What could these two possibly have in common? Their unlikely friendship had begun a year earlier, not on a studio backlot, but at Chaplin's Beverly Hills home. Chaplin, ever the entertainer, had invited Einstein and his wife Elsa for dinner. Between bites, the conversation flowed from cinema to science, with Einstein marveling at Chaplin's ability to captivate audiences without a single word. "What I admire most about your art," he reportedly told Chaplin, "is its universality. The world understands you without needing an explanation." Chaplin, quick as ever, supposedly shot back. "That's true, but your glory is even greater. The whole world admires you, even though they don't understand a word of what you say." That night at the premiere, the contrast between them couldn't have been sharper. Chaplin, the silent storyteller, and Einstein, the man whose theories left even the brightest minds dizzy. When the crowd erupted in applause, Chaplin leaned over and quipped, "They cheer me because they understand me. They cheer you because no one understands you." The line became legendary, though some historians question if it was really said that night or simply a clever anecdote passed down through the years. Beyond the cameras and red carpets, their bond ran deep. Over the years, they dined together, debated philosophy, and shared concerns about the world's future. Einstein, a fierce advocate for peace, and Chaplin, an outspoken critic of fascism, found common ground in their defiance of political oppression. But their outspokenness came at a cost. By the 1940s and 50s, both men found themselves under scrutiny, Einstein for his political activism, Chaplin for suspicions of communist sympathies. Hollywood, wary of controversy, distanced itself from Chaplin, but Einstein remained a steadfast friend. Mae West and Cary Grant. Mae West had a habit of getting what she wanted, and in 1932 what she wanted was Cary Grant. At the time, he was a fresh-faced actor with just a handful of minor roles to his name. But when Paramount suggested other leading men for She Done Him Wrong, West reportedly dismissed them all with a wave and declared, "If he can talk, I'll take him." He could talk all right, and the chemistry between them was instant. West, already a box office sensation, had a reputation for steamrolling her male co-stars, but Grant was different. He didn't try to outshine her, he balanced her. His cool, effortless charm played perfectly against her bold, flirtatious persona, making their scenes crackle with tension and wit. The film, released in 1933, was a runaway success, raking in millions and playing a crucial role in pulling Paramount back from financial disaster. Practically overnight, Grant's career skyrocketed. But what truly baffled Hollywood wasn't just their on-screen magic, it was their off-screen friendship. West was 15 years older, fiercely independent, and known for keeping men at arm's length once the cameras stopped rolling. Yet Grant was different. He remained in her life for decades, visiting her well into her later years, always respectful, always appreciative. Some whispered that there was more between them, but both denied any romance. West, never one to mince words, often quipped that Grant was the only man who could keep up with her wit and charm. Maybe that's why she kept him around, because for all her bravado, she had finally met a man she truly respected. Marlene Dietrich and Ernest Hemingway. Picture this: two legends crossing paths, not on a luxury ocean liner in 1934 as some tales suggest, but through letters that sparked a bond in the 1940s. Marlene Dietrich, the German-born actress who lit up Hollywood with her smoky charm, and Ernest Hemingway, the writer whose raw prose captured hearts, found in each other a rare connection. Rumors swirl that their first meeting was over a dinner with 13 guests, Dietrich hesitating at the unlucky number until Hemingway quipped he'd be the 14th. But legends like these remain unverified. What we do know? Their friendship was real, forged in admiration. Dietrich called his writing a whole philosophy, while Hemingway marveled at her voice, saying it could break your heart. Their letters, spanning decades, reveal a deep emotional intimacy, filled with longing and inside jokes. They never became lovers, defying Hollywood's gossip mills. During World War II, Dietrich entertained Allied troops, singing to soldiers on the front lines, while Hemingway covered the war, witnessing brutal realities like the D-Day landings in 1944. Some dare to guess he once handed her a poem after a harrowing day, read aloud at the Ritz in Paris. but that's unverified. What is true? Their bond endured. Hemingway wrote in 1952, "I always love you and admire you," a sentiment as steady as his heartbeat. They dreamed up wild ideas, too. Legends tease they fantasized about a nightclub where Dietrich would sing, Hemingway playing bouncer, maybe even joking about a self-propelled launcher to introduce her on stage. While such details remain unconfirmed, their playful creativity shines through their letters. Their correspondence continued until Hemingway's self-inflicted death in 1961, a loss that echoed through Dietrich's life. Decades later, her daughter, Maria Riva, donated Hemingway's letters to the JFK Library, cementing their unexpected friendship as one of Hollywood's most enduring. Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin. Hollywood loved to pit stars against each other, but Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin never played along. While the public saw them as silent-era rivals, Chaplin, the sentimental genius, and Keaton, the fearless stuntman, the truth was far more surprising. They weren't enemies, they were allies. And when Keaton's career hit rock bottom in the early 1950s, Chaplin stepped in. By 1952, Keaton had lost his fortune and was scraping by on small television gigs. That's when Chaplin, exiled from Hollywood and making limelight in London, cast Keaton in a rare on-screen collaboration. It was a small role, but a monumental gesture. Keaton later called it the kindest thing anyone ever did for me. Chaplin, known for his rigid control over every detail of his films, reportedly made an exception for Keaton, allowing him to shape their comedic duet. Some say Chaplin even expanded Keaton's part out of admiration, though others argue it was simply a necessity for the scene's rhythm. Either way, their performance was a masterclass in silent comedy, with Chaplin setting up the gags and Keaton delivering the perfect payoff. Despite Hollywood's obsession with rivalry, Keaton never saw Chaplin as competition. He once marveled, Chaplin could do things with a walking stick that most actors couldn't do with their whole bodies. And when Chaplin was blacklisted during the McCarthy era, Keaton never wavered in his support. Two men, two styles, two legends, forever linked not by rivalry but by an unshakable bond. James Dean and Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor was Hollywood's reigning queen, glamorous, poised, and every bit the studio system's golden girl. James Dean, on the other hand, was its rebellious outsider, a method actor who scorned authority and tradition. Their friendship, forged on the set of Giant in 1955, baffled many. Taylor, just 23 but already a seasoned star, saw past Dean's brooding exterior. He was raw, vulnerable, and despite his tough persona, desperately in need of connection. She became his confidant, the one person in Hollywood who truly listened. Their bond deepened in quiet moments between takes. Dean, who had a troubled past, confided in Taylor about his struggles, his frustrations with the industry, his personal demons, and the loneliness that fame only amplified. Taylor, fiercely loyal to those she loved, took him under her wing. Some on set whispered that she was protective of him in a way that went beyond friendship, though there was never any confirmed romance. Instead, their relationship was one of deep trust, a rarity in the cutthroat world of Hollywood. But not everyone understood their connection. Rock Hudson, the film's other leading man, clashed with Dean's unpredictable acting style. While Hudson was polished and professional, Dean was instinctive and erratic, often ignoring direction to chase raw emotion. Taylor, caught between them, became an unintentional mediator. Though their tensions were more artistic than personal, the friction on set was undeniable. Then came the tragedy. On September 30th, Dean's Porsche Spyder crashed on a California highway. He was just 24. Production on Giant had not yet wrapped, but director George Stevens pressed on. Some say Taylor was devastated when she was asked to continue filming so soon after Dean's death, though accounts vary on how quickly she returned to set. What's certain is that she never forgot him. Years later, she revealed that Dean had shared a painful secret with her, one she vowed never to disclose. Whatever it was, it only deepened the mystery surrounding him. Even after his death, Taylor spoke of Dean as one of the most important people in her life. Their time together had been brief, but their bond was unshakable. Two icons from opposite ends of Hollywood's spectrum. One a studio darling, the other a restless rebel, forever linked by a friendship that defied expectations. Frank Sinatra and Marilyn Monroe. Hollywood in the 1950s was a place of carefully curated images, but behind the glitz, some of its biggest stars formed bonds that defied expectations. Take Frank Sinatra and Marilyn Monroe, two icons from vastly different worlds who found solace in each other when the cameras stopped rolling. Sinatra, the swaggering crooner with mob ties and a reputation for controlling his circle, seemed an unlikely confidant for Monroe, the era's most famous bombshell, whose personal struggles were an open secret in Hollywood. Yet their friendship ran deep, built on shared battles with fame, loneliness, and the pressures of an industry that could be as cruel as it was glamorous. By the early 1960s, Monroe's life was unraveling. Her marriage to Arthur Miller had collapsed, her health was deteriorating, and the studio system was tightening its grip. Sinatra, who had weathered his own career turbulence, became one of the few people she trusted. She often sought refuge at his Palm Springs compound, a retreat far from prying eyes. According to biographer James Kaplan, Sinatra was fiercely protective of her, offering not just a place to escape, but a genuine friendship in an industry where trust was rare. Of course, Hollywood couldn't resist speculating. Were they more than friends? Some whispered about a brief romance, but Sinatra's close associates, including Tony Oppedisano, insisted their bond was rooted in mutual understanding rather than passion. In Sinatra and Me in the Wee Small Hours, Oppedisano recalled Sinatra's admiration for Monroe's resilience, saying she had a moral compass she tried desperately to follow. Her sudden passing in 1962 devastated Sinatra. He reportedly blamed those around her, convinced they had failed to protect her. And while conspiracy theories about her death have swirled for decades, one thing is certain: Sinatra lost a friend he truly cared for. Their friendship, often overshadowed by the more sensationalized aspects of their lives, remains one of Hollywood's most unexpected and poignant connections. Greta Garbo and Mercedes DaCosta. Hollywood had plenty of puzzling friendships, but few raised more eyebrows than the bond between Greta Garbo and Mercedes DaCosta. Garbo, the elusive Swedish film icon, was the last person anyone expected to entertain the relentless devotion of DaCosta, a bold playwright known for her passionate letters and rumored romances with some of Hollywood's most glamorous women. They met in the early 1930s when Garbo was at the peak of her career and DaCosta was making waves in literary and theater circles. From the moment they crossed paths, DaCosta was captivated. She later wrote in her memoir Here Lies the Heart that Garbo had the most beautiful face she had ever seen. She sent the actress letter after letter, some filled with poetic declarations of love. Garbo, however, remained an enigma, sometimes affectionate, sometimes distant, often exasperated. Despite their differences, the two remained entangled for years. DaCosta was one of the few people Garbo allowed into her fiercely guarded world. They traveled together, exchanged gifts, and shared moments that DaCosta later immortalized in her writings. But their friendship had an undeniable push and pull dynamic, Mercedes always reaching, Greta always retreating. Hollywood insiders were baffled. Garbo was famously private, avoiding the industry's social scene and keeping even her closest colleagues at a distance. So why did she tolerate DaCosta's relentless affection? Some believe Garbo was drawn to DaCosta's boldness, a stark contrast to her own reclusive nature. Others whisper that their connection was more than friendship, though Garbo never confirmed nor denied the speculation. By the late 1930s, cracks had begun to show. Garbo, weary of DaCosta's increasingly public adoration, started pulling away. The final blow came in 1960 when DaCosta published Here Lies the Heart, hinting at their closeness without outright confirming anything. Garbo, fiercely protective of her privacy, was reportedly furious. She severed all ties, and DaCosta, who had once written to Garbo nearly every day, never heard from her again. To this day, their relationship remains one of Hollywood's great mysteries. Was it love? Was it friendship? Or was it something in between? Whatever the truth, the bond between Greta Garbo and Mercedes DaCosta was as unexpected as it was unforgettable. John Wayne and Marlene Dietrich. It's 1940 and Marlene Dietrich, Hollywood's glamorous, European-born enigma, locks eyes with John Wayne, the rugged all-American cowboy, on the set of Seven Sinners. Legend has it she turned to director Tay Garnett and purred, "Daddy, get me that." Whether she actually said it or not, one thing's for sure: their bond was instant. Dietrich, known for her champagne tastes and cabaret roots, seemed an unlikely match for Wayne, who preferred a stiff drink and a hunting trip. But behind the scenes, they found common ground in their love for chess, road trips, and late-night conversations. They were inseparable, attending football games and analyzing films together, sparking endless rumors. Some whisper that their connection was more than friendship. Dietrich was even named in Wayne's 1954 divorce from Esperanza Bauer. Wayne once called her the most intriguing woman I've ever known. And despite their clashing politics, he was staunchly conservative, she was an outspoken liberal, they never let it divide them. Even as time and marriages pulled them in different directions, their bond never faded. When Dietrich passed in 1992, Wayne had already been gone for over a decade. But their friendship, unexpected, unshakable, and endlessly speculated about, still leaves Hollywood wondering, what was the real story between the Duke and the Diva? Even as time passed and their worlds grew further apart, their friendship endured, a reminder that genius, whether in equations or in laughter, speaks a universal language. Clark Gable and Spencer Tracy. Clark Gable was Hollywood's ultimate leading man, dashing, confident, and larger than life. Spencer Tracy? The opposite. A quiet, introspective actor who let his performances do the talking. They weren't just different, they were operating on entirely different frequencies. And yet, they formed a bond that baffled Hollywood insiders. Both were MGM's prize stars, but while Gable thrived on charm and charisma, Tracy was all about raw, understated talent. They first teamed up in San Francisco in the mid-1930s, and despite their contrasting styles, Gable reportedly admired Tracy's effortless realism. Some say he even admitted Tracy was the best actor he had ever worked with, though no direct records confirm this. What's certain is that Gable respected him enough to step back and let Tracy shine, a rare move for a leading man of his stature. They reunited for Test Pilot and Boomtown, playing roles that mirrored their real-life dynamic. Gable as the bold risk-taker, Tracy as the level-headed counterpart. But after Boomtown, something shifted. Tracy's career was skyrocketing, and MGM was hesitant to give him equal billing alongside Gable, their undisputed box office king. Whether this was the reason they never worked together again remains unclear, but some speculate it created an unspoken tension. Despite their professional divergence, their friendship endured. Tracy struggled with alcoholism, and Gable, rather than judging, offered quiet support. When Gable's wife, Carol Lombard, died in a tragic plane crash in the early 1940s, Tracy was one of the few who stood by him in his darkest hour. But as Tracy's drinking worsened, he withdrew from many in his circle, including Gable. By the mid-1940s, their once close friendship had faded, though their respect never wavered. Tracy later called Gable the most generous actor he had ever worked with, a sentiment that spoke volumes. Hollywood never quite understood their dynamic. Two men who, on paper, should have been rivals, yet found common ground in mutual admiration. A friendship that defied expectations, even if it couldn't outlast the pressures of fame and personal demons. Audrey Hepburn and Gregory Peck. Gregory Peck was already a Hollywood powerhouse when he met Audrey Hepburn on the set of Roman Holiday in 1952. She was a relative unknown, an elegant, doe-eyed newcomer with a European accent and a background in ballet and theater. Paramount cast her as Princess Anne, but they never expected her to steal the entire film. Peck, however, saw it coming. Just days into filming, he pulled his agent aside and made an unusual demand. Hepburn's name had to appear alongside his in the credits. His agent balked. Peck was the star, the box office draw. But Peck stood firm, reportedly saying, "She's going to win the Academy Award in her first performance. I'll look like a fool if I'm billed alone." He was right. Hepburn won the Oscar for Best Actress in 1954, proving Peck's instincts correct. Their on-screen chemistry was undeniable, but off-screen, their relationship became something Hollywood wasn't used to, an entirely platonic, deeply loyal friendship. The press speculated, of course. A dashing leading man and a stunning ingenue? There had to be a romance. But there wasn't. Hepburn later described Peck as like a big brother, always protective, always looking out for her. Peck in turn became her mentor, offering career advice and personal guidance for the rest of her life. Even decades later, their bond never wavered. When Hepburn passed away in 1993, Peck, usually composed, always the dignified leading man, broke down in tears while recording a tribute. "She was enchanting," he said, his voice cracking. "There was no one else like her." A friendship that defied Hollywood's expectations. No scandal, no rivalry, just two stars who understood each other in a way few others could. Humphrey Bogart and John Huston. In 1941, Hollywood had strict rules. Directors directed, actors obeyed. But Humphrey Bogart and John Huston? They laughed in the face of convention. Their friendship wasn't just rare, it was downright baffling. Directors weren't supposed to treat actors like equals, yet Huston and Bogart acted like brothers. They schemed, debated philosophy over drinks, and always had each other's backs. It all started with the Maltese Falcon. Huston, a first-time director, took a gamble on Bogart, who was still clawing his way out of gangster roles. The result? A noir masterpiece that redefined both their careers and forged an unbreakable bond. When Houston wanted Bogart for the Treasure of the Sierra Madre, studio execs hesitated. Could their leading man really play desperate and unhinged? Houston didn't flinch. He knew Bogart had it in him, and he was right. The film became a classic, and Bogart delivered one of his most haunting performances. Then came The African Queen. The grueling African shoot, heat, mosquitoes, dysentery would have broken most actors, not Bogart. He and Houston embraced the chaos, reportedly drinking their way through production while Katharine Hepburn stuck to water in horror. But through all the madness, Houston pulled an Oscar-winning performance out of Bogart, the only Academy Award he ever won. Their friendship lasted until Bogart's death in 1957. Houston later reflected, he could quote Plato, Pope, Ralph Waldo Emerson, and over 1,000 lines of Shakespeare. Bogart wasn't just a tough guy actor. He was a thinker, a rebel, and Houston's greatest ally. In an industry built on power imbalances, their friendship was an anomaly, one that left Hollywood insiders equal parts impressed and perplexed. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment. Also consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell to get notified of our new videos each week. Thanks for watching.